The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
And welcome to the Doctors In with me, Dr. Dinothra Archer Cartwright. Thank you for joining me tonight, once again with this show. And I'm joined tonight by a good friend of mine, Pastor Glenn Rule. You know, we're going to be talking a little bit about, what's kind of next for me. And then we're going to discuss broadly to the country, what we're seeing is happening right now, and just our kind of view on that. For those of you who don't know, and I'm just trying to also set up the Facebook, because people were asking if we would be on Facebook Live today, and that seems to be giving me all kind of crazy problems. I don't know why, but I'm going to get that live up eventually. And so those of you who are on live, there we go. You just will have to bear with me for one moment. But for those of you who do not know, I'm not going to be on live for a little while on Guardian Radio and possibly not Facebook for a few months. Taking a little time back, just had a new baby boy just recently, and I'm going to take some time with my family, take some time with my new son. He's an addition to our family. We have a girl. And so just taking that opportunity, and within that, a lot of reflection I think I've had over the past few months as well. And that's why sometimes you see I'm very convicted about what's going on in the country, because I am a Bahamian. I have children in this country. And that really makes you not only look forward to the future for yourself, but also a future for your children. And so it's really important to kind of take in everything that's happening. And that's why I tend to want the best for our nation, because it's naturally a part of me. And also, when you look at it at the end of the day, we want a society that our children would be proud of, that our children want to come back to. And we want a society that fulfills the potential of what this country can truly be. And so we're technically not online as yet, but join us on Facebook when we get it up. And of course, we're on Guardian Radio 96.9 on the radio. I'm Dr. D. Archer. The doctor is in. And our numbers here tonight, because we're going to have an open line, we're just having a discussion, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. And I guess if you have questions as well, there's a lot of stuff happening in the country. The COVID vaccine is here. We're looking at a post-COVID nation and what that would mean and how we're preparing for that. And just a lot of different things are happening right now. So I'm just going to bring in Glenn. Welcome to the show, Glenn.
Hey, Doc. Hi, Mom. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're not on Facebook Live. I was looking for the link.
I'm trying to, for some reason, I'm having a problem. I'm just going to try this again. But yeah, I was having a little issue there. I don't know why. For some reason, it locked me out. I must have been bad on Facebook. But they locked me out, and then I was trying to get back in. So that might just take a second.
Okay.
I've already put in a new password. Okay, so I'm gonna try this all again. Okay, it's looking like my normal Facebook now. I don't know what happened before. I hope that didn't steal my account or do anything strange, because it didn't quite look like the regular Facebook that I usually go into. But it might be an internet problem, so we're just gonna go ahead for now.
Okay. How was the? You talk about Ashley. I don't know if you have publicly mentioned the name of your son as yet.
I haven't actually. I've been really quiet about this one. I don't know why.
Okay.
I guess with Ashley, I was like, Ashley, it's everywhere.
I'm not gonna push it. Well, we had a grandbaby recently, first one, so.
Yes,
So
you too have a congratulations.
I know firsthand how protective my daughter was with the name and all of those different stuff, and so I got in trouble for trying to beat her ahead of it, excited about it, but so I'm not gonna, I'm timid now. I'm not gonna even push to find out what's his name.
You'll know soon enough. I mean, my daughter chose his name. She was more excited than everybody else. She was doing a countdown for him, and there's 8 years apart. So she gave me this whole rundown how she's been waiting to be a big sister and all of this stuff. So I really, really got it with her. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see. She's not like me. I was brought up as an only child in my house, and I never really asked for another child. I was like, no, I'm good. So he is a different child.
I'm
together.
I'm sure Victor is smiling from ear to ear, and of course, Mom, who is your eternal support, I'm sure she is happy to see this now. You have a balance in the house, boy and girl.
We do. It's quite good, thank God. Blessings from God, I consider it. And within the midst of all the craziness and everything that's happening, I consider that a blessing. And definitely, I take those things seriously because I am a Christian, maybe not a classical Christian in a sense, but a Christian, a believer. And I think I have a really good connection with God. So I thought it was God kind of like saying, that's where you need to be right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, boy, you preempted one of my questions already. You playing the God card on me now, almost pushing me to the place where I can't ask a question now.
Ask whatever you want, Glenn. So ask whatever you'd like to.
Doc, I don't know when you're going to give me the go ahead, but I really wanted, saying that you're on a pause, I really wanted this night to be about you. When you were talking earlier about what this moment is for you now, even the let's say the weight, let's say the blessings, let's say the joy, but also the concern, because one of the things that I've come to appreciate since we met, I think we met somewhere around Starbucks and drinking, and here was this young professional. I don't want to use that word loosely now because you look like you may have a piece of lot down in your area.
I better claim it. I better claim that lot.
But I remember this young, brilliant doctor. I don't know if you used to work, but you sure found a way to come into Starbucks and to engage about national issues.
I was working.
But one easily got from you this love for country, this desire that, hey, I gotta come back home. I gotta be a part of my own national development. And to hear you talking at this stage concerning your own concerns, perhaps we'll talk later on about where the country is, where your thoughts is. But I wanted this night to be about you because I think so many times when you're sitting on the next side that you give way to other people given their ideas and their thoughts, and you more or less respond to that, even though you have ideas and thoughts of your own. but I reflect on those days because my own heir told me that here was a Bahamian first class. There was someone who was concerned about the issues. There was someone who had her own ideas about where the country needed to go, and really with this sense of enthusiasm to come and help build and shape. So I mean, sort of with that in mind, what drove you to that? You know, why didn't you, like others, decide, hey, I'm educated, Canada, Trinidad, different areas. I'm gonna take like LeBron James said, I'm gonna take my game to Miami. I'm gonna take my game somewhere else.
Well, I am an only child. My mother brought me up basically, and people don't realize this as a single mother. I mean, I was lucky because she had me a bit later, but I was brought up in a single mother, parent home. And so my mother struggled to make a way for me. So my intentions were always to kind of come back home, despite whatever I did. Now, when I originally went off and I was in Canada, I did not intend to be a doctor. I intended to be more of a pure scientist. I was going to be working in the lab and doing those types of things. And something changed when I was there, doing those honor classes and different things. I actually interned inside the hospital in Peterborough, the town that I was in Canada. And I realized that I like being around people. I like helping. I like, being on that level of being able to interact with others. And so I had a complete shift from what I was doing. I would say my Canadian lectures already, said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be over here. You're going to do certain things and stuff like that. And I decided I was going to medical school. And so I came home and my mother was like, well, if you're going to do medical school, they're telling me the volume is low. If you're going to do medical school, then go back to Canada or whatever like that. And I told her, no, I was going to go to UE and come back home. And so I had my mind set up to come back home. And I would say when I initially came back home, I was very involved in studying. But as I started going around New Providence and seeing what was happening at the time in terms of how people were living, how there were almost like these different worlds and where, some people were living their best life and then some people were really like struggling to kind of make it through and stuff like that. I really saw a contrast for the first time that I had not noticed, I guess, when I was younger. So I just started seeing things. And the thing about it is when your mind opens up to these things, it's really hard to go back. And so even though I was studying medicine and going through and doing my internship, I started recognizing that there were some holes in the systems. There were some areas where Bahamians were being left out of their own economy. They were being left out of what I told you. I guess that's where I get the concept of creating paradise for others, where we had this beautiful place and people were coming from all around the world to just have a little piece of the Bahamas. But the average Bahamian really will never have that experience. I've been in places where, where I'm the only Bahamian in a certain place. And the lifestyle that I see people living, I said, if my people were living this lifestyle, we would have a different Bahamas. So I realized there's so much that we were not tapping into. And there was something that was wrong, that people could come from all over the world and fulfill every dream. And people who are born here don't have those types of opportunities. There's a very small amount of us that break that glass ceiling.
And you talk about the small amount of us, because as I listen to you, it almost sounds like this ideal opportunity to be selfish. It almost sounds like, hey, I'm a mother's only child. I don't have any other care in the world. Granted that she struggled to get me into school and different stuff like that. I went away, sort of tie up my own bootstrap, as they say it. came back educated, a doctor. I imagine, I'm not going to ask your age, but a doctor, I imagine, at a very young age. Because when I found out your age, it's like, nah, you know. But the point I'm making is that you had every reason to not be concerned, quote unquote, about the conditions, about the welfare. Obviously, you have your own business now in terms of, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Mm-hmm. But you could have very well put a sort of a blinders on. You could have said, I'll carve out a space for me. I'll carve out a space for Victor, who is your husband and children. I'll carve out because, you know, I mean, I'm the only child. You talk about your faith. I'm wondering what it was that sort of pushed you into this sense of service, this sense of humanity, this sense of caring for others. Is it something they teach at the doctor level? Or do you think it's something that, you know, people talk about purpose and destiny and other stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think it's something that is sort of far more than just school that really gave you? And when I talk about the Passion Daughters, I'm talking about in the sense of discussions, very, very, what I call passionate discussions in Starbucks, meeting people in walks of life, seeking to get involved at the political level, even talk about churches offering different kind of services. What was it that took you outside of your own world, then, if I could say that?
I don't know. I think it was just something inside me. I mean, I've kind of made up of different backgrounds, and I think that's what really kind of helps a lot. You know, I've been to different schools, so I did 10 years at St. Andrews, 3 years at St. Augustine's. I think I'm a Bahamian that's kind of walked all different points of life, right? From the top to the bottom. And so very few people get to kind of straddle the fence like that, from, going to school with prime ministers' daughters and expats to, the immigrant son, So I've been able to see that across an entire way. And I would say a strong, compassionate mother. My mother always kind of tried to help other people, always had that kind of thought in mind. Okay. And so, some of that comes from there too. And just, I guess, like you mentioned, purpose. And I think I've always kind of searched for that idea of what is your purpose and what are you here to do? There has to be a greater meaning to life than just kind of living, getting stuff and material things. I've never been a materialistic person in a sense, but I've always been a striving person. So I think all of those components together, and being able to leave the country, I think too, and come back. Mm-hmm. All of those things I think have been helpful in kind of creating the way that I look at life and the way that I think about life and how I feel that we should help out each other. Because I see a brown in our community where there is a lot of selfishness and we tend to go hard for each other. What I mean is, I remember a community and talking to my grandmother where, community was really, really a big thing.
That's what I want to talk about, but I want to sort of transition in another way because you kind of go exactly where I want to, because even though a person like me, for an example, had the privilege of, as a former policeman, to actually be in the space of, let's say, the Linden, Pinland, Bahamas, the sort of leading Caribbean nation, if you want to sort of put it in that way. I'm not sure whether that would have been your experience, but so just from an age point of view, I'm not sure which Bahamas you have an appreciation for, even though you're beginning to talk about that. For example, when you started away to school, was this the Bahamas that had begun to decline, and you were seeing these different nations almost taking over?
I think being a child of the 80s and 90s, right? I think I was in the idealistic Bahamas. Things were kind of flowing pretty good for everybody. but there were some undertones that were happening that kind of brought us to where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think growing up with this sense of, you know, the Bahamas is number one and all this kind of stuff like that, and then coming back to a Bahamas that to me felt was on a decline, I think created that kind of contrast. And I'm a student of history. One thing I would say is I've always tried to be a well-rounded person. To study your history, you have to know where you came from to know where you're going. And so I respect the era of Sir Lyndon and what people fought for. And so I've always kind of looked back to the struggles that were had there. And I think it was the writings of Sir Randall Fox that I looked at that showed that we had almost become complete circle in our struggle from where we were at that time and where we are today. The faces may have changed, but the Bahamas had almost reverted back to where we were in a sense. Mm-hmm. There are some people who are free to do more things, but I still feel that overall, you know, we have not moved on past, I guess, maybe what Sir Lyndon did in his era. Mm-hmm. We never, you know, got our Joshua, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So based on that imagery you have, now that you are a mother of two, I'm not going to predict whether they're going to be more. Maybe you may have some announcement later on, but I'm not going to get into that. But definitely the mother of two, wonderful mother, wife, family, all of those type of stuff. And your first sentence was almost carving out of Bahamas in which they can fit in. And of course, by extension, children all across the Bahamas, because that's the kind of process that you bring to the table. As a mother, are you concerned? Are you afraid? Are you worried? If you could dig into your own mother's mind, when she is sending you away, do you two have different vision of what this Bahamas that your children is going to live in compared to what she envisioned? Do you have reasons to be a little bit more worried, concerned than she would have, and perhaps explain thinking process if you are to that?
Yeah, I'm worried because I think the Bahamas, you know, in my mind, I was very idealistic about what the Bahamas was. So coming home was, to me, you know, really like a blessing, especially going off, seeing what's out there and seeing the Bahamas, in my eyes, coming back home as a paradise. I don't think that our children in general are seeing that. The last forum that I did at the University of Bahamas, every one of those young people said that University of the Bahamas was a stepping stone to get out of the country.
Wow.
Right? Wow. So this is our youngest, our brightest. These are the young people that are going to make waves in the next 5 to 10 years, and they are planning their exit. So it doesn't matter that some people are doing well. It doesn't matter if some people are getting rich. Our children do not see a benefit in staying and building this country. So if our children aren't going to be building this country, who's going to be building this country? Who's reaping the benefits of our country? There is a disconnect happening between us and this next generation or so. They're seeing the struggle of young professionals like myself. They're seeing how difficult things can be. They're seeing that people are working hard and not getting where they would like to be. But we can see the wealth in this place. We can see it. And I'm not saying that you can't accomplish things because, you know, I work hard. I have a business of my own. I'm a consultant with the government. So I'm kind of like out of the box, have made it. But I see more even potential and a broader sense just in some small things like our educational system. I see where our young people are going with that.
Let's talk about that a little bit, Doc, because again, too, so many of your lines remain in my head, whether it be Paradise, whether it be you talking about the need for the light to turn on, and when they say the light to turn on, you talk about, you know, when you look into somebody's eyes, the young people, and when you say something, you recognize that it's the moment when the light turn on. Let's just sort of go back because there's something about your footpath when I talk about you could have gone the other road. You could have built your own castle and that's it. You could have basically be a doctor, denote your act, your card, right, and that's it. But you got involved in unionism. You got involved in activism. To my own fair, sometimes you even spoke out against your own government, and I used to ask myself,
I just try to speak truth, Glenn. I'll tell you, like I said, Glenn, I was searching for a deeper purpose beyond, and a lot of people get caught up, well, you're a doctor, that's it, you're done. And I've never been that kind of in the box person. I always searched for what is my greater purpose, because I think purpose is not just your individual accomplishments, but what you do to create a better world. And so, and it struck me one day, I was coming down the stairs and the light hit me in my eye. We have a window over our staircase, and I don't know if it's God. I don't want people to get freaked out or anything, but I really thought that something just said to me, God has given you wisdom. A part of your purpose is education, just going out there and making certain things known, because we have a society where we're told not to ask questions, to, stay in your place, shut up and wait until you're called, all these kind of ways of keeping people within their little boxes. Mm-hmm. And you don't have a lot of professionals out there speaking about all these different things. You don't have a lot of people doing that kind of stuff. And so, it sometimes comes off strange to a lot of people. They're like, why? It's just something pulls me when I see certain things, when I hear certain things, that I have to openly speak about it, because what is the sense of having all this education, all this knowledge, and we are stuck in our little boxes and not able to have an impact on society in a meaningful way?
Doc, you said something, and it sort of revealed who you are. And hey, for your listener there, me and her just have our power our time now. So I don't want you look at this conversation and say, boy, they so chubby with, No.
Right.
We have our moments, because I'm talking to somebody who, by every definition, is wise, is articulate, is a visionary in and of her own self. But when I say stubborn, I don't say that in a bad way. There are some things that she believes in, and she fights for them as them. The reason, because again, too, if you're talking about unionism and activism and being on the government job, if you put what you have become and what you have displayed is so opposite to what we know in terms of people being afraid to speak out.
Right.
People sort of turning a blind eye to what they know is injustice and wrong. And I don't think, I know you're not a person who wears fate on your shoulder and stuff like that, right? But I would prefer that sort of what I call grounded center person who don't have to say so and so, I am spiritual this and I am minister this, but their deeds, their action, the way about life is so meaningful in that way. Again, too, what do you consider to be the cause of that? This conviction, this resolve?
I don't know. It's just a part of me. I'm like that with everything though, Glenn. And even in patient advocacy, when I'm dealing with patients, I will like go the extra mile. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely insane sometimes what I find myself doing for patients. But I feel like, what am I doing? A lot of my patients have my number. They call me personally. We have that type of relationship with them. So I've always been that kind of person to like, if you're going to do something, you should do it 100%. You should go the extra mile. You should look out for other people, and that kind of stuff. And even on the government, working with them, like I'm like a really strong patient advocate. Like I will go out there and make sure certain things are happening, right down to finding out the cost of their medication and making sure that they have the most reasonable medication. If it's a financial problem, call in the pharmacist. So I do this in almost every aspect of my life. And my husband can tell you, because I I'm like this with him too. Like, I'm like, what did you do? No, we have to do that properly. So I really believe that a lot of things that we lack sometimes in the country, and when we do things, is we're very kind of a laid back people generally. And, it's kind of like whatever kind of flows and whatever like that. I don't know if it's going to school in Canada or other experiences that I've had, but I've always been a very, and this, and this always sometimes gets me and you in trouble, very structured in the way that I do things and wanting it to be a particular way, which can sometimes be problematic. But when it comes to getting things done right, that tends to be helpful.
It's never a hard issue, guys. It's always the doctor believes this is proven, this is tested. If we go this route, and I must confess, notwithstanding we have our differences at times, I must confess in knowing you, there's hardly anything I know that you touched that didn't bring about a certain kind of successful results, especially to the degree to which you would have had what I call control. Now, there are some things that is beyond our control, right?
Yeah, of course.
The things that we have control, the things that we can steer, I must confess that you have steered it with a degree of excellence. Significant amount of people would have been impacted by it, and we'll talk more a little bit about that, because I do believe that there's another chapter that we're going to talk about at certain point. But let's go back to what you talked about earlier with your mom in terms of a single parent and to go in a struggle. Is any of what I'm hearing connected to? I'm sure it is, but if you can articulate for connected to that sense that things did not come my way easily. Yes, St. Andrews was there, SAC was there, Canada was there, other places were there. And people who don't know the history behind that, well, we could very well say, well, Doc has always been privileged. But from a single parent point of view, how much of the struggles, seeing it firsthand, knowing what it's like, how much of the struggle has sought to build what I call a fight in you, a fight that you got to go the extra for?
Yeah, definitely. So, my mom's family, came off of East Street. That's just like very down the middle of the road, Bahamian style,
This sounds almost like the political campaign.
So very, very humble beginnings. My mother, I would say, was the first one in her generation of kids to go to college from my grandmother's side. So, I think that kind of, get it attitude came from her. Despite everything, despite her circumstances, she always wanted a little bit more. And so, out of nothing, she worked for quite a while. She was actually a stewardess on Bahamas World. So she worked, traveled, did all these things, and then still came back and paid for her own college. And that's why she had me a bit later. But she's always been the type of person to try to do more, to get more, and to strive, really, circumstances. And we struggled. We had times that we struggled. We had times that were good. And so I saw my mother going through all of that. And so that strength comes from there. And, it's made me a frugal person as well, because, I don't believe in living above your means. I believe in saving. So it really made me the kind of person that's like very, everything kind of structured in that sense. But it gave me a passion to know that you can come from anywhere in the country and be whatever you put your mind to.
Hey, guys.
If you work really, really hard, it's difficult. And some people have it harder than others. And my whole thought is, it shouldn't have to be that hard.
Yeah. Hey, guys, if Doc ever get a chance to be a stewardess, you get a little peep,
I know, right? Definitely. And I think that goes into my thinking, because I did a post recently, Glenn, on this whole thing with the hotel that they bought in Freeport. And when a lot of us were saying, it's not maybe a good idea to purchase a hotel and stuff like that, a lot of people are like, oh, they're saving jobs or whatever like that. I think, too, you have to have this kind of seeing things from different angles. in order to make wise decisions. And that's one of the things that I don't see a lot of times with our leaders. It's very kind of narrow in political views.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit, Doc. Let's transition a little bit because, like I said, you move this sense of education. I kind of hear that more from you. I just have to remind myself that you're a doctor sometimes because you're a little bit too outspoken and other stuff. Let's talk early years coming back in. This Bahamas that you envision. Obviously, there were some barriers. Obviously, you're trying to impose on a culture that perhaps existed from the Pinland days, so to speak. Was there a fight? What were there things you had to overcome? Was this young, educated, bright, creative person just came back and say, I have all these ideas I want to flesh out? Or you realize that the Bahamas you wish for and hope for was not accepting to a young doctor?
I think it's accepting to the idea of what a doctor is once you stay within your little box. What I found is that if you have different ideas, you have a different approach, it's another thing. So even as a physician, I get a lot of pushback on a lot of different things, to do things differently, people not wanting to change certain stuff, and just this whole idea of even in your youth, because you would understand that as a young doctor coming in my 20s, there's some disrespect just for the age thing. And so there's just a lot to overcome. You don't see that as much in the United States and Canada and those places. Like if you're kind of qualified or if you have a certain position, you might get a few people who are but most people will kind of respect you where you are. I think because there's such a big difference between those who are educated and those who are probably worked for just a long period of time, it's still kind of hard. I mean, and I find that a lot of young people and then left because they didn't find that kind of, we're happy. They tell you to go and get educated and all this stuff like that, but are they happy for you to be home? Where's the space for you? Where are you allowed to bring your ideas to the table to be a part of the managing collective? Mm-hmm. If you only see young people as the people who are going to work and do grunt work, then you don't get the innovation from them. You don't get the new ideas from them. And what we need is to be able to collaborate between the old and the new to create the best that we can for the country. So even in medicine, I found it very difficult. A lot of people don't want to change. A lot of people don't want to embrace new people. And we're a very cliquish country. So if you're not within a particular clique, or you're not within a particular grouping, or you don't have a particular background, you don't get that back straight off the bat. You have to really kind of work hard and prove yourself and get your own self known. So it's not as easy. I think there's less and less spaces that you can really truly bring creative ideas to the table and they be like openly thought about and accepted. Like just the medical industry, like there's so many things I think that we could be doing that would improve our medical services, but where do I put those ideas?
But before
that's why I have my own business.
I was about to say before the program is out, obviously you have to talk about your own medical. I can't even call it the middle name.
So medical concierge services.
Yeah, medical concierge service. But before we go to Doc, because obviously that would be one of the. If you go after 9 o'clock, is there any break between us, or I just go?
I take a break when I want to. If you're ready to take a break.
Okay. No, I'm good because I'm looking at this time, and I say I have so many questions in the back of my head.
We can just use it. Brought to you by Medical Concierge Services. There you go.
I don't know if you're going to retire and I do not. This is not a retirement.
I'm taking a break from the live shows. Graciously, Guardian is going to be there in support of me, and we'll see. I should be back in a few months, but definitely I'm going to take this time to.
I have this strange feeling that there's going to be another chapter. You know, but before we get to that, let's sort of piggyback, because this passion, this love for education, at some point you thought the best way to beat the blockages and the challenges was a what I would refer to as a Bahamas that was more open, more welcoming to ideas. Hence, education is critical to that. You had some early appearance on different shows, lending your ideas to it. What drove you to the point of breaking down those walls and communicating and sharing your vision, whether it be on radio, on Facebook, to social media? What is the driving factor? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What is it that we're missing? What is it that you're hoping that will come out of the trailblaze, the effort that you make?
Right. And so, like I told you, I had that little moment, that little sunbeam with the whole idea of purpose. I thought, I had been doing some radio, so why not have a kind of focus where I could focus some of the things that I wanted specifically out there? Because I feel like when you educate or you plant seeds, even if it seems like a small thing, these ideas grow. And to tell you the truth, I've seen an idea that I, just kind of threw out there grow in the community in different ways. And it may not seem direct, and a lot of people don't notice it, but if you start planting seeds, educational seeds, it slowly grows in the community. I mean, the idea of people being more outspoken, people being good citizens, participating out there, people wanting to learn more, people speaking, those things were important. I also have, a strong conviction about health education as well, because I think a part of our problem is a dual problem, both health and education. If we're going to be a productive society, if we're going to be a productive society, we need to be both healthy and we need to be both educated. And so we have to think differently. Mindset changing takes time. And so I never expected to have like a drastic change, but to see people pick up some of the thoughts that you put out there and it being spread in different ways, it to me is a very powerful thing. And it makes me feel good when, people come up to me and they say, I listened to your show, it made me think about this or, that, because those things count, because that person talks to another person who sparks a conversation with another person. So I think all of us have an opportunity, if we have a platform, to help create a new Bahamas as it starts.
So when we talk about the doctor now, obviously, when we talk, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now, Glenn.
Okay, when we talk about the Doctor in the House, your radio program that airs weekly, this is just a pause for those of you. So we're going to ask you to stand by until the doc make the next announcement whenever she makes that. And when, she may have to come driving down the escalator when she's making the...
Oh, Lord.
But the idea of the Doctor in the House, this radio platform, the Doctors is in, it's more than just medicine. You look at it in the context of the health of the nation. One component of that is, I'm getting from you that if you're well educated, that will translate into certain healthy lifestyle, whether it be physically, whether it be mentally, emotionally. And so you it's almost as if you surgically look at the entire society and try to find solutions, whether it be our politics, our governance, our spirituality, and other stuff like that. How did you go about identifying persons? I could think right off the top, whether it be Dr. Professor Morris. It seemed as if you wanted to bring in people to share your platform, Dr. Sands and others, people in different. It seemed as if you wanted to bring in people who can help drive that same narrative. Tell us about your own experience. I mean, what was it like for you to be in the room, engaging and having?
Definitely. You're breaking up a little bit, Glenn. Now we lost you just a little bit. Whilst Glenn kind of gets back with us, yeah, I think it was very important. Are you back, Glenn? Are you back with us? You're kind of breaking up, Glenn. But it was very important that, I didn't always want to have guests on. I wanted to have guests that I thought would be very impactful. I wanted to elevate the way that we did shows. So I wanted really kind of thinking shows. So I have a mixture of purely medical shows and then more of what I call societal or health of the nation kind of shows, because I wanted people really to be in that frame of mind where they would think, and they would be at a point where the conversation would be elevated to a level that would make them think about things and want to know more and be engaged on a different level than we sometimes see on certain topics. And so the type of people that I wanted was really people who would engage with that kind of thing and just kind of bring everybody up to a whole new level once that conversation is over. Are you with us, Glenn? So we're having a little technical difficulties with Glenn there. Glenn, are you with us?
I don't know if that's my internet, Doc, or yours, or I'm not too sure, but I'm losing you from time to time. I didn't hear.
Yeah, you went out for quite a while. So I was just answering your question about how I chose my guests. And so I didn't always want to have guests on the show, but when I wanted them on the show, I wanted them to be very impactful, people who would make the conversation flow in such a way that after every show, people would come away with something new. They would be informed and they would have something to think about. And as you can see from the type of people that I chose, whether it was a medical or it was what we call a social or, topic, I didn't want you to feel like you just watched any other show, but you got a different feel through that topic. I think we were able to do that. It was almost 2 years of shows. So,
Wow. I didn't realize it was that long. 2 years.
Yeah.
Did you have like an anniversary celebration?
I don't know. The time always kind of flowed, so I'm always a busy person. So
No, the truth is, Doc, you always downsize, build up certain things. It's just, I don't know if it's that humble side or that side to say I don't want to be flamboyant, or I don't know if it's just the conservative side, but you just kind of silently allow things. I'm what I call an introvert parading as an extrovert, because I'm actually a very introverted person in the sense that if you know me personally, beyond when I get passionate talking about like politics and different stuff like that, I'm a pretty quiet person. I'm pretty much a person that keeps kind of to myself a lot of stuff like that. But then when I see a challenge or I see something that needs to be done, I will go out there and I will come out of my shell to make it happen. Kind of like what we did, feeding and going out there and stuff like that. I saw a need, and so I thought, that's something that we need to be done. And so I kind of come out of myself, kind of make that stuff happen. And so I don't know how. I never would have thought that I would do radio, but Glenn, you're actually the one who got me into radio. No. Listen, I think you couldn't help but be in this direction, and why I said I don't think you could have helped it, because I'm a person like this. I'm always when I'm in conversation with what I call clear-minded people, I'm always thinking I shouldn't be the only one hearing this. I'm always thinking, boy, if more people are hearing what I'm hearing, then we can carve out greater space. So what I heard coming from you and your ideas and your willingness to, and when I say defend it, and it's for why we think we should go in this direction, radio was a natural. I don't think this is the end of it, but I do think that many platforms will lend itself to what you have to say. Remember when you went on doubting things. And as soon as you open your mouth, I'm not that I want to go there, but take a minute, Doc, and talk about the disappointment. Talk about the frustration. Talk about this idea which you have of the Bahamas. Why is it we're not ahead? Why is it you are concerned? What it is that you're seeing out there that needs to be overcome if we are going to make it to the next level?
Well, like I said, I think there's so much wealth and so much promise out there. I think it starts with where we want to be as a country and having that collective vision of what we see for our society, whether it be, on a social level of how we treat each other, right up to like an economic level. And I think it starts with how we treat and how we deal with each other. I think we've lost our way just a little bit. Wow. I think we need to kind of rehash how we as a community treat each other. And so that kind of respect for life, that kind of respect for other people is extremely important. And I think we're losing a golden opportunity in our educational system to kind of foster the kind of young Bahamians that we want later in life. We talk about what, crime and all these different things, but what have we really done to kind of impact? How do we change the lives of people? We need to give people alternatives to their lifestyle. And so that comes through education and really kind of focusing people in what would make their lives better. And so I think that is extremely important. And then in terms of frustration, you're setting up young people for failure if they don't have a good education to think for themselves and to do things for themselves. And I think we have a lot of people who are very dependent in our society, whether it be on government or whatever else. They're not up to the challenge of kind of facing certain things. And then for those who even find themselves out of that and want to work hard, I think there are a lot of cultural obstacles as well as infrastructural obstacles in their way. It's difficult to navigate in the Bahamas if you're not connected, if it's not, we have a small society, you know what I mean? And I think the government runs a little bit like that, but too many things are in their hand. So I think a little less control there. I think number two, we need to open up opportunities. We have a lot of kind of things that are just not as open as they should be. So I think people complain about capitalism, but I don't think that we really have a truly capitalistic society because a lot of things are not open to you. There's a lot of areas that you'll never be able to get into.
Yeah.
There's a lack of opportunity when it comes to capital. Mm-hmm. And so you can have some of the greatest dreams and aspirations and innovations. It's very difficult in this country. I can't think of anyone other than the number boys who have been young and successfully just kind of blown up in this country. You got places like China and other places making millionaires every day. Where are young millionaires? Mm-hmm. And those who want more are leaving the country. From the very basis of creating a workforce, we are losing at the bottom and at the top.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they're telling us every day our workforce is not up to scratch. So on the lower level, jobs are being taken. On the higher level, you're overqualified. What does that mean in your own country? Mm-hmm. I came back in a time when a lot of my friends were being told that they were overqualified.
Wow.
And jobs were being given away and people were coming. We have over 40,000 work permits in this country.
Yep. 40,000.
And a high unemployment rate. Yeah. What has been our strategic plan to change that? Where have we looked at the gaps and said, how are we going to, in 5 years, not have this kind of situation? If we need accountants, why aren't we training accountants? If we need engineers, why aren't we training engineers? What is the issue? And until we have the type of leadership that kind of focuses on what the problems are and how do we solve the problems, we have the same 25 years.
That's what I want to transition to. And for those of you out there, I'm having a conversation with Dr. Atchis. She is putting this program on a little pause I'm hearing so much for. I want to sort of almost sneak at the end what's going to be the next chapter, but we're not quite there yet. She talked about the need to take some time out to think about it. So hey, I believe when she comes from, hey, if I could use a spiritual term, when she comes from the wilderness, she.
No wilderness here.
Let's talk about the political landscape, because you talk about the same problem. So obviously, we go into election. I think all of us agree that the Bahamians for the most part are frustrated with the political direction, frustrated for the most part with what we refer to as traditional party politics, PLP, FNM, so to speak. Give me your sense landscape looks like. Is it the same old, or is there an opportunity to turn the page as you see it?
Yeah, I usually don't speak directly to politics, but I would say that with this upcoming election, I've always said that we are on a precipice of change. Either we frankly change our direction, or we continue going down the slippery slope that we've been going through. So we've been back and forth between two major parties for the past, 20, 25 years. And we have seen a decline in the middle class of this country. We've seen a decline in the culture of this country and society as a whole. It's definitely not the Bahamas that I grew up in. And what I'm seeing come forward is what it makes me very uneasy, Glenn, that we continue to kind of do the same thing over and over, which is insanity. However, like most Bahamians, skeptical of the new things that are coming out. We don't know what some of it means. And this seems to be an election where we're going to have a vast amount of choices, but we still don't seem to have what we're really looking for. And I'm saddened with the fact that if we do not get the type of leadership that we feel is going to, really kind of radically change the country for the better, some altruistic people who are going to kind of be selfless in a sense to make the types of changes that are going to improve the lives of the everyday Bahamian, we're going to be right back where we started 5 years ago, which was just voting a government out.
Wow.
And will that change the direction that we're going? I don't think so. I think, the major players are all going in the same direction. They just have a different way of arriving to that destination. Or do you drive in a limo? But you're going to the same place. And so I think this is a very difficult time for Bahamians. A lot of young people and people my age, because I'm an early millennial, and, we have a whole other generation after me who are in their 18 to 20 something bracket. Those, a lot of people are contemplating not even voting, not participating, because they don't see something there that reflects what they want or what they need. And it's kind of sad that we're between kind of a rock and a hard place.
You talk about selflessness. You talk about the fact that there are multiple choices out there. If I were to borrow your eyes, what should I be looking for? I'm confused, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I hear these multiple voices. Sometimes I hear the same ideas, or at least general ideas, whether it be ownership and change. What should I be? How do I get through all of the
it's hard. It's hard, Glenn, because people are using keywords. Because they know what we want to hear, empowerment and certain things and stuff like that. So I would say that we need to look at the individuals. Who is that person that you're going to cast your vote for? I think this is going to be the game changer. Who is that person? We don't look deeply at our candidates, who they are, and the type of decisions that they would make. What are the type of decisions that they've made in their own lives? What type of person are they? What is their character like? How do they treat their family? It might seem like things that you shouldn't think about, but these are important things because these are the things that go into how people make decisions. If you're a man that beats your wife, if that's the way you treat the person you love, how do you think you'll treat the nation consistently? How do you treat the nation? If you're a man who does bad deals or is a crook, you can't overlook those things. We've come to a point in our culture that we overlook a lot of red flags in our politicians because we want to vote a certain way, we're on a certain team, and that's what we want. But we have to start looking at character. And I don't mean doing one or two things wrong defines a person. I mean, what is that person character like as a whole? And we look very superficially at those things. But we have to start looking a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
We need to have a more general vision because anyone who tells you that they have all the answers now before they're in the seat, it's very unlikely they know what they're doing, because there are lots of things that we don't get to see until you get in there. And so to create a real strategic information, you're not going to get all that information until you're sitting in the seat. So we have to dig within ourselves. Those of us who are spiritual have to really kind of find within us and figure out who is going to be the right person. Because if we vote on color of the t-shirt, if we vote on just kind of superficially who's giving us stuff, we're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
What is this person's long-term vision for the country? Is it sustainable? Because I can promise you all kinds of things, but is it going to happen? You know, I think they promised to go back on that. We end up having an increase on that. You know? So they say a promise is a comfort to a fool, basically. Has that person been out there in the community doing things before? It's a lot of different things.
You talk about skipping over some of these things, but how important is that? Because the person's listening out there, if sometimes those of us who in the political arena can become confused, imagine what it's like for people who probably don't look at all of those things that you talk about. But how important is patterns? How important is certain characteristics? How important is certain traits? Because like you rightfully said, how do these things a bigger trend?
You're breaking. You broke up, Glenn. You broke up.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Go now. Yes.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, I know you went over some things rather quickly, you know, in terms of what people should learn and stuff like that. How do we get a populace to buy into that we're talking about?
Yeah.
As to what the character and idea of it. How do we get that to become a part of the thinking process of the voting populace?
Yeah, and you know, that's part of the reason I talk about education. Well, those of us who know this stuff, we need to make it more known. I mean, this is a campaign in itself. I talk about earlier, especially when we maybe first met, like the good citizen is someone who's involved. Until we're at that point where we are involved in what's going on in our country, we're not going to get the type of leadership that we're really looking for, because that requires that every citizen is involved and educated on what's happening in their country, is keeping the feet to the fire of their elected officials, whether it be opposition or whether it be those who are in. We have to do a better job. And we have to look at integrity and honesty and those types of things as qualities that we want in our officials. If we cannot find those things in a person outside of politics, and so sometimes we don't actually like those qualities. Culturally, I've been in lots of different groupings, and I watch who rises to the top a lot of times. And it's usually not the honest guy. It's usually not. It's the con man. It's the showy guy. It's the very loud person who, you know, kind of demands attention, and we love it, right? We love it. That's why we love rallies, and we love all of this kind of, you know, loud, exciting stuff. But it gets us in trouble, because we turn around and that same bold, brash guy turns out to be usually arrogant, usually is not the best guy for the job, as we're seeing with our leaders today. And we're seeing this kind of move to this totalitarianism, like where they want complete control. Well, we saw some of these flags before in the way that they talk to the media, the way that they approach. We ignored it. And so it's like a woman who keeps picking the same guy over and over. She picks the guy who cheats on her, or she picks the guy that beats her, you know, and she's like, but he looks a little bit different, but you keep picking that same type of fella. You have to look within. So as there's some comments online, it's unfortunate the experienced politicians have muddy the way for the new politicians. In order to change it, we now have to put the structure in place to help us little people determine this now. That was a comment from Jillian Bartlett. She also says 40,000 work permits. So after Dorian, still and after no solution, still after 40 or 50 years, it's time to change this. Well, the only way we change this is we decide how do we fill those spots. See, we can't just talk about things. We have to find solutions to things. So if our problem is we don't have to realize that we have to engineer that we gear our children towards that, we have scholarships towards those particular things because we intend to fill those spots. But that means determining who we are as a country and what we want. Not just now, not in 6 months, but in 5 or 10 years, who are we going to be? Are we going to be a tourism-driven industry, and that's the only thing that we want our children to do? Or are we going to take back our financial services? Are we going to diversify our economy? But whatever it is, we need to have that working plan now. Places like Singapore determined who they were going to be.
And Doc, that's one of the things that almost is absent from our government. No sense of deliberate thinking, you know, no sense of clear vision. So for an example, no one can answer the day, for an example, like you mentioned, 40,000 work permit, and here's 40,000 spots that can be doing. Doc, we got about 20 minutes. I want to transition into some things. Are you going to have regrets that, for an example, I don't know if you have an idea of how long you're thinking to take this sabbatical, if I could put it that way. But are you going to have regret that here's it that you're pulling your program at a time when it seems as if the Bahamian people will need the more education? Yeah, I mean, this election.
Well, I'd say I'd be back. Hopefully, we put it for the next few months. So June or July, maybe. But definitely for my family, I'm pulling back just, you know, to be with my newborn and everything else. But the intention is to come back. The intention is to continue, but with support. So I'm going to be working on support for the structure of the show as well, because that's also a big part of it. I think as I got involved in other things and doing a lot of other things, I definitely, but family. So family is always the most important thing to all of our units. And I strongly talk about family and making sure the family is really together. And it's an important structure for all of our society. And so my family comes first.
You know, I hope Victor isn't listening to this question, right? But I almost feel guilty asking it, but permit me to be a member of the press to ask anyhow, right? But with that listing of your priority, it almost seems as if, well, first of all, when do you think election will be held?
I think election is going to be next year. I don't think it's going to be early, because even though they're saying all of this stuff and they've been campaigning, the country is in such a place right now that it doesn't look good for the governing party. I think they want some headway to make themselves. COVID vaccine has just come out, and so for those who want the COVID vaccine, you know, that's going to be a shining light for them. So there are things that are going to be promising. So I think they're going to build on the momentum of, you know, being able to get the vaccine to certain people, and then starting infrastructural projects. There were a lot of things that were promised to happen in this last budget that's coming up. If you were keeping track of what the last Minister of Finance had laid out in terms of their plan for the entire 5 years. Mm-hmm. And so what you're going to get now is, you know, just like the husband that beats you, we're going to go back into the sweetheart period where you're going to be getting a lot of benefits and all those things that you've been waiting for so long, or miraculously going to appear, project's going to be in full swing. And they know that the typical Bahamian has a very short, in May of next year, things are going to be looking good in 2022, and you may not vote them out. So it's actually not in the favor of the governing party to have elections right now.
Okay, so the reason I ask that, because the longer it takes, then perhaps this question is not off the table. Because, I believe like this. I believe sometimes when one have such passion and desire to see their country move forward, they kind of internalize and ask themselves, how do I make this happen? Giving people my ideas seem not to work sometimes. It's almost like I got to use what's in my hand. Is there a place in the doc's hand that says, hey, if this thing go down to another year or two from here, I may very well be in the race?
Go, Glenn. I would tell you absolutely no, right? But, I am willing to go where God sends me. And like you said, I've watched and waited so long for there to be what we're looking for. Sometimes you have to create that yourself. Sometimes you have to be a part of it. And so if that is a part of my purpose, maybe so, because I think anything can happen in a year. I believe in possibilities. And I believe the right combination of people that come along can drastically transform this country into what it needs to be. It only requires the right combination.
So I mean, that's almost like saying, whoever bring any application for Glenn to sign on, I should sort of hold off on that because.
Well, Glenn, to me, because I'm not a politician into politics, it would have to be something that is going to be absolutely amazing and life-changing and a game changer in all senses. Because I feel like if you're going to commit that kind of time, and it takes a lot, it takes from your family, it takes from your environment, it needs to be something that's worthwhile. And something worthwhile, not just for yourself, but for the Bahamian people. I think we've waited a very, very long time for something new. I think a lot of people have tried a lot of stuff, but I don't think any of even new ideas, new people that are coming up have fulfilled all the boxes that we need. We need something transformational. When the original PLP came through, they had something to prove.
Yeah.
They had a cause. Mm-hmm. So they had something, they were fighting for so much more in the society, whether it was women's, came to a head and led to a new governing party with a different view on how things should be done. And whether go on.
Do you get the sense that we are there yet? Or from your standpoint, based on sounds, vibration, are you hearing anything out there yet that says, you know what, if I get in this is the direction that I think I'm going, or you're still unsettled when it comes to that clarity in terms of a vehicle or vehicles that will take you?
I'm a little unsettled. I haven't quite seen what would be just right. But like I say, a year is a good amount of time. Mm-hmm. The thing about it, right, and you look at most of the stories in the Bible, it wasn't very long-term things that caused Jericho and those type of things. These were very specific things that instantly caused change. So I think if it's what God wants and it's the right time, anything is possible. I don't think you need a year. You might not even need 6 months, whereas some people might have been at it for 10 years. If it's what it's supposed to be. I'm not completely sold on anything that I've seen out there just yet.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've come to appreciate from you, which is one in many, is that this sense of discernment, this sense of the moment. Where are you in the context of the moment, in terms of change, in terms of transformational redirection, if you want? Is this the moment?
I'm not sure because I still don't think ready for that type of change. You
Mhm.
know, you have to be accepting of a different style of leadership.
Ah,
You have to be in the mindset that you want something else. You know, is it that you just want your team to win, or do you truly want something else? I think we've gotten closer to that point, and I think we have a younger generation that's not as loyal, but we still have a lot of diehards, and we still have a lot of people who don't quite understand what that requires. It means us as a people, you know, not having certain expectations, but actually having a change in our expectations. It means that we may have to make some sacrifices. Are we willing to do that as a people? Are we willing to have the discipline that it requires for change? Do we just want another quick fix?
in the last 10 to 12. Let me transition this way because you did bring up the COVID. I want to talk about the COVID, the vaccine and the COVID in this sense. That people do talk about this global pandemic in the context of real change or reset or remaking, however we want to look at it. Talk to us as a doctor in terms of the vaccine and what that may mean. But also take a few minutes and talk about what kind of discipline the nation may have to undergo to embrace what this change represents in terms of going in a totally different direction.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the pandemic, you know, we have never seen a response to any type of sickness or illness that we've seen with COVID. So we've had a time where we've had such a strain on our healthcare system because it was a new virus. It came out, it affected a lot of people, and we were not prepared. The pandemic allowed us to see a lot of holes in our system. You know, we have been running our country like a petty shop for years, just making it by day. And what the last hurricane and COVID did was showed us that we cannot and we should not any longer try to get away with the bare minimum. You know, getting away with the bare minimum, it gets you through day to day. But what happens when you have a crisis? And if we have learned anything as not just a people, but also as a government and our leadership, is that we should try to be prepared. And being prepared means that you put something away for another day. We have been living in our government. That's how we work our government as well. We borrow, we live above our means, we're spending, we got to wait on every paycheck. You know, these are cultural problems that we have, right? People have less than $1,000 in the bank. And what you're seeing is a translation of that and that lack of discipline coming through in the leaders that we're picking. So we are picking from ourselves people who are reflecting the things that we do. And so a crisis like COVID showed us that we as a country need to do better. We were not prepared. We tried to skate through originally with what we were working with from the very beginning. We knew from January that we had that this was coming and that we maybe needed to get some things put in place. We needed to increase our capacity. And we did not do those things because we've always kind of made it through. We're always, you know, so our leaders have been able to get away with that until now. And this is where people's lives were on the table. And so preparation, right, is very important. And I hope we learn from this and that we're prepared the next time, because we haven't seen the kind of drastic changes in healthcare that I would have liked to have seen.
Specifically to the vaccine, what do you say to people out there who are suspicious, who are concerned? Take a minute. What would you say to those persons? How do you, So
I'm a believer in free will and rights. So the vaccine is an experimental vaccine. It's not fully approved. no one should be forced to take it. I believe that it may help those who are in the high risk group, so our older, think that they may be affected by COVID. It does decrease your chances of getting very ill or dying from COVID. That's the only thing that the vaccine has promised. And so I think everyone should look at the information, decide for themselves. And it's there for everybody. So I think, it's free, and we see a lot of our older persons are getting it. So if you feel like that you are in the high risk group, have a conversation with your doctor and decide if the vaccine is right for you.
Are you going to be taking a sabbatical from your doctor's office also?
So just for a short time, but I have another doctor who's there with me.
Well, why don't you tell us about that? Because obviously this is also a time when people want to know. You offer your medical service. You're a doctor. Yeah.
So our office continues to be open. We're medical concierge services. We're in the heart center, which is on. I'm a family physician, and so is the doctors that are in my clinic. We are all family medicine trained, so that's why we take a very patient-centered approach when it comes to information. And that's why family medicine was a good fit for me, because we do a lot of educating. We're not the type of doctors just to here, do this or do that. We like you to have informed consent of what's going on. And so that's why I say the best approach for anyone who is skeptical or has an issue, to sit down, talk with their doctor, get the facts. So if you want to come and see us, you can call us 326-1521. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we have a website, MCS, at familymedicine.com. And so, we are those doctors who will sit down and talk with you and answer your questions, because I feel like everyone should be comfortable with what they're doing. And I think a part of the approach that's missed was having that conversation with the Bahamian people, finding out how they feel about it. Telling people the truth about the vaccine, what it provides, what it does not provide, and who really should be trying to get it. I don't think anyone should be forced into doing anything, and we need to be practical about it. We know a lot more about COVID-19 right now. And, if we give people all of the facts, they can make good decisions about their own health, educated and informed decisions about their health. And so I'm glad that it's here for those who want it.
And we got about 3 minutes left in terms of family. You're taking this sabbatical. I heard and Victor should be loving this. Mom home, all of those different stuff. He's going to still be doing his electrical work, I take it.
Of course, so we've got our company, Cartwright's Electric, for all your electrical needs. And you can always give him a call, 67449. And, that's where it is. When you want to do your own thing, you have to get your own stuff going.
What it's going to be like for you the next couple of weeks? Give us a peep into perhaps what would you be thinking about? What would you be reflecting on? Obviously, the mother part of it, the wife part of it, even your business part of it. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you're going to be thinking also big country state, wherever you are.
Yeah. Definitely focus on the family. My little boy keeps me very busy all day. I'm only getting a break now. I had to basically schedule this break with feedings and everything like that. But yeah, I thought about this too as I sit here, how I would think about the country and how I think about myself going forward. So I think with our companies, we're going to be doing some additional projects and things. And then, expanding hand as well. It's very important for me to always be involved on some level, and then to build on top of that. And if there's a need to do more and to jump into all of it, Glenn, that's always an open thing. But at the end of the day, first of all, I'll always be trying to support the community and, keeping a voice out there, to keep certain things out there. Sometimes I bring up certain topics just so people could realize that those topics are a topic.
Yeah.
Because we miss a lot of things, and a lot of things happen in this country that we're not aware of. We don't have the type of transparency that keeps people very informed if they're not watching the pulse of everything that's going on. So in a broader sense, I would like to see that we eventually get the type of leadership that we deserve, that will lead us to a new and better place, which means that it is a sustainable empowerment.
Is that at all possible, except there be return to what you refer to as a spiritual foundation based on certain values?
Well, that's it. Have we taken an account of what values are important to us today? Because I know a lot of young people that have turned away from any kind of spirituality. They're devoid of that. And so, if we're not building that up in them from young, if we're not showing them that walking in grace and being a certain type of person is productive, they're seeing the negatives of religion. They're seeing people not follow what they say that they're going to do. So if that is important to us, and I think it is, I think we've lost our spiritual connection to God. I think we've lost our Christian foundation. And even if you're just a spiritual person, I think a lot of people have detached themselves from that. And so we have to take a look at that and see where does that fit into our culture today, because I would say that a lot of young people in our culture do not respect any form of religion.
Wow.
And they are living a very liberal lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, we've heard the conservative, we've heard the doctor, we've heard the mother, we've heard the nation builder. Doc, it's been my privilege to join you in this conversation. When you hit me up this evening and say this would be a sort of pause moment,
yes.
I thought, I think that the nation is robbed when they don't get a full appreciation for you, what you bring to the table, your thoughtfulness, your deliberateness, your resolve, your conviction, and you're not a person that have to wear it on your shoulder. You live it out. You walk it out, and we're grateful that your family continue to lend us to the nation.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you for joining with me tonight. Yeah. Always good as usual. They will be playing rebroadcasts during this hour. So if you want to catch up on the shows, you can do that, and also check us out on Facebook. The Doctor's In with me, Dr. D, and hopefully I'll see everybody soon.
See ya. Thanks, Doc. Next chapter.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Night.